Welcome back to Horoscope TV. I'm so thrilled to be sitting down with you again to look at the week ahead.
It is always good to be here.
We are focusing very specifically on the week of February 2nd through February 8th, 2026. And I have to say, looking at the data we have in front of us, this is not just another standard week.
No, it is not.
We're dedicating this entire analysis to the sign of Libra, and judging by these charts, our Libras out there are in for quite the ride.
Quite the ride might be a bit of an understatement, actually. I've been looking at the planetary movements for February 2026 for a while, and this specific week, it stands out.
Yeah.
Like a neon sign.
Yeah.
It's volatile, it's exciting, and it's, I would argue, one of the most pivotal weeks of the early year for the sign of the scales.
I was going through the notes before we started, and the phrase that just kept popping into my head was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh, that's good.
It just feels like the week has this split personality. You start Monday with a really specific kind of light vibe, and by Sunday, you're in a completely different movie. Is that a fair way to read the data?
That is actually a perfect assessment. Structurally, the week is, it's bisected. You have the first half, which really leans into those classic Libra strengths, social grace, appreciating beautiful things, harmony.
The usual stuff.
But then right around Wednesday, the floor just drops out. The energy shifts from soft and receptive to, sudden, sharp, and demanding. Tectonic plates are shifting in the sky, and by the weekend, the whole emotional landscape looks completely different.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we get into the day by day, because I know we have a lot of specific dates to cover, I really want you to set the stage for us.
Sure.
When you look at the charts for Libra this week, what's the headline? What is the major cosmic mechanic that's driving this Jekyll and Hyde split?
The headline is, without a doubt, the planet Uranus. On February 4th, Uranus goes direct. Now, for people who aren't super familiar, planets sometimes look like they're moving backward in the sky. That's a retrograde. Then they stop and move forward again.
Right.
That moment of stopping and moving forward, we call it stationing direct. It's like a massive release of energy.
Okay, so we always hear about Mercury retrograde, right? That gets all the press.
It does.
But Uranus is an outer planet. It's a much heavier hitter.
Exactly. Mercury is personal. It's about your keys, your emails, your commute. Uranus is transpersonal. It's about evolution, revolution, and shock.
Shock.
When an outer planet like Uranus changes direction, it acts like a pressure valve. The pressure's been building up internally during the whole retrograde period, just simmering under the surface. On February 4th, that valve opens. And the energy, it expresses itself externally. It's no longer just a feeling. It becomes an event.
And for Libra specifically, this isn't just happening in a random part of the sky, is it? The data places this right in a very, very sensitive sector for them.
Precisely. This is all going down in their 8th house. In astrology, the 8th house is the sector of shared resources, transformation, intimacy, and all the things we usually like to keep hidden, sort of the basement of the psyche.
So we have the Great Awakener, the planet of shocks, waking up in the basement of secrets and other people's money.
That is a fantastic way to visualize it. But the real tension, the thing that is going to make this week feel so intense for you if you're a Libra, comes from the geometry. The angle between this awakening Uranus and Libra's own ruling planet Venus.
Oh, okay.
We are looking at a core conflict between a deep, inherent desire for romance and connection, that's Venus, and a sudden, almost overwhelming need for freedom and rebellion, that's Uranus.
Wow. That sounds structurally complicated for a human being to process. You want to be close, but you also want to run away.
It creates a massive internal paradox. It's a wild ride, because you're going to feel pulled in two completely opposite directions at the same time.
Well, I love a wild ride, and I know our listeners want to understand how to navigate it. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's look at that weekly arc. You said the week starts off with a focus on enjoyment.
It does. If we look at Monday the 2nd and Tuesday the 3rd, the aspects are, they're relatively supportive. The energy is lighter. It's about enjoyment, aesthetic appreciation, maybe getting into your hobbies. It's the calm before the storm.
But we can't get too comfortable.
I cannot get too comfortable because February 4th is the turning point. That is when Uranus stations direct.
Okay, let's go deeper into that sector you mentioned, shared resources and transformation. I think sometimes people hear resources and they just think of their paycheck, but the 8th house is more specific than that, right? What does shared resources actually mean for a listener driving to work right now?
That's a great question, because it's a key distinction. When we talk about the 2nd house in astrology, that's your money, the money you earn, your salary.
Right, what I bring in.
Exactly. The 8th house is other people's money. This can be anything from investments, inheritances, tax returns, your spouse's income, venture capital, or even debt. It's money you have access to, or money that has a hold on you, but it doesn't come from your direct labor.
Okay, so when Uranus, the planet of surprises, goes direct there, it's not necessarily about getting a raise. It could be about the bank or the IRS or your partner's wallet.
Correct. It's a wake-up call regarding any kind of financial entanglement. And because it's Uranus, it's not a slow burn. It's sudden. It's the email you didn't expect, the notification on your phone that changes things.
So checking your bank account and seeing a surprise, good or bad.
With Uranus, the moral value is neutral. It's just change. It's volatile. It could be a sudden windfall, absolutely, or it could be a sudden unexpected expense.
Okay.
But the eighth house also rules intimacy, energetic shared resources. So this wake-up call, it could be financial, or it could be a sudden realization about the depth of a partnership. The veil is lifted on February 4th. You see the transaction, emotional or financial, clearly for the first time in months.
That's intense. Okay, so moving along the timeline. The very next day, February 5th, the moon enters Libra. Now, usually when the moon is in your own sign, that's considered a home court advantage.
It is. It's generally very empowering. We often call it a charisma boost.
A charisma boost, I like that.
For about 2.5 days, the emotional gravity of the week just centers on you. You have to remember, Libra is a sign that's always correlated to the other. They're so often focused on their partner, their friend, the coworker, keeping the peace in the room.
Always mediating.
Always. Having the moon in their own sign forces that energetic focus back onto them. It makes them the protagonist of their own movie for a couple of days.
I love the sound of that main character energy for a few days.
That's it, exactly. It increases emotional sensitivity, which means you feel things more deeply, but it also increases your magnetism. People are just naturally drawn to you when the moon is in your sign because you are broadcasting on a stronger frequency.
But there's a catch.
There's always a catch. Context is everything. Because this is happening right after that Uranus jolt on the 4th, that magnetism might be a little more electric or erratic than usual.
So you're glowing, but you might be glowing with static electricity.
Perfect analogy. You're attractive, but you might also be a little bit dangerous to touch.
Then, just a day later, on February 6th, the landscape shifts again. Mercury enters Pisces. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication, logic, data. Pisces is the ocean. It's dreamy, it's abstract. What happens when you take the planet of spreadsheets and drop it into the ocean?
The ink runs. That's really the best metaphor for it. Mercury in Pisces creates a shift in your mental focus, moving it toward the intuitive, the poetic, the subconscious.
Okay.
But, and this is a big but, for a week where we're dealing with serious financial news, Pisces dissolves boundaries. So while the topic of your thoughts might still be work and your daily routine, the method of thinking becomes daydreaming.
So picture this. You're sitting at your desk, you've got a spreadsheet open, you know you need to finish this report by 5:00 p.m., but you are just staring out the window, wondering what it would be like to be a cloud, or replaying a conversation from 3 years ago.
That is the quintessential Mercury in Pisces experience. It's poetic, it is incredibly intuitive, but it is not known for its precision. Libras might find it exceptionally hard to concentrate on hard data, linear timelines, or detailed instructions from the 6th onwards. The brain just wants to float.
And then we hit the climax of the week, Sunday, February 8th. In the outline, you flagged this as the source of all the tension, the architectural flaw of the week, so to speak.
Yes. This is the Venus square Uranus aspect. We need to analyze this one carefully. Venus is the ruler of Libra, so this affects them personally. It's not just background noise.
Right.
A square in astrology is a 90-degree angle between two planets. It represents conflict, tension, friction. It's two forces trying to occupy the same space at the same time, and they just can't.
And the conflict here is between what and what?
It is the conflict between romance and freedom. Venus is the archetype of bonding. It wants to connect, to merge, to harmonize, to sit on the couch and hold hands. Uranus is the archetype of liberation. It wants to break free, to individuate, to rebel, to burn the couch. When they square off like this, the result is profound restlessness.
So the Libra listener might wake up on February 8th feeling like the walls are closing in?
Yes. It's a visceral feeling of entrapment. You might look at a situation that was perfectly fine yesterday, a relationship, a home, a routine, and suddenly feel like you need to escape it immediately.
So the goal is balance, which Libras love. It's their symbol. But the forecast says it's going to be really, really hard to maintain that.
Extremely hard. You can't balance a hurricane. You just have to ride it out. The real challenge is to not mistake the weather for the climate.
Yeah.
Just because it's storming today doesn't mean you need to move house.
That is a perfect transition. Let's talk about the heart, love, and romance, because you said earlier this is a high-voltage week.
It is.
And usually when we hear romance and Libra, we think soft music and roses. This sounds more like heavy metal.
High voltage is absolutely the best way to describe it. See, right now, Venus is moving through the sector of romance for Libras. On paper, if you just looked at the chart broadly, this is a green light, usually indicates a time of pleasure, dating, affection. The stage is set for love.
Usually. But here comes the but.
But that square to Uranus on the 8th acts like a wrench in the works. Or maybe a better analogy. Imagine you have a lovely candlelit dinner planned. That's the Venus influence. The table is set, the music is playing.
Beautiful.
And then suddenly a fire alarm goes off and the sprinklers turn on. That's Uranus.
Not exactly the romantic vibe we were going for. Wet tablecloths and loud noises.
No. The primary danger here is a feeling of sudden boredom. This is a very specific psychological reaction to this Uranus transit. A Libra might look at a perfectly good, stable relationship, one that was making them happy just last week, and suddenly feel suffocated. They might crave excitement, chaos, or just something different, anything different.
So it's not that the relationship is bad. It's not that the partner did something wrong. It's that the internal weather of the Libra has changed dramatically.
Precisely. This planetary alignment creates an itch that is very, very hard to scratch. And the risk is that Libras might act on impulse just to alleviate that boredom.
How does that show up?
Sudden crushes are very common under this influence. You meet a stranger at the coffee shop, and because they are new and the energy is high, they suddenly seem like the answer to all your problems.
The grass is greener syndrome on steroids.
Exactly. Or, on the flip side, sudden arguments. If you can't find excitement externally, you might just manufacture it at home.
It's like an electrical surge. It's exciting, sure, it wakes you up, but it's dangerous. You can blow a fuse. You can say things you can't take back.
You can absolutely blow a fuse. If you aren't self-aware, you might start a fight just to feel something, just to break the tension. This is why we analyze the charts, so you can recognize that impulse for what it is.
Yeah.
It's a transit, not a truth.
However, it's not all doom and gloom. We have this really interesting moment on February 4th, Venus sextile Chiron. Now, I know Chiron is often called the wounded healer. This sounds like a soft spot in a hard week, a moment of grace.
It is a beautiful window of opportunity, and I cannot stress enough how important it is to use this day. And it happens right before the chaos really ramps up.
Okay.
A sextile is a supportive, harmonious aspect. It's an opening. With Venus connecting to Chiron, there is a massive chance to heal a relationship wound.
What does that look like in practice? Is it an apology? Is it a deep talk? How do you use that energy?
It looks like vulnerability.
Yeah.
It looks like having that conversation you've been avoiding, but doing it with kindness and an open heart. If there's a lingering hurt, an insecurity, or misunderstanding in your love life, February 4th is the day to address it.
And the energy supports that.
It does. The energy supports healing through open, honest talk. The ego is a little quieter on this day. It's easier to say, I'm sorry, or this is how I really feel, without getting defensive.
So heal on the 4th, because by the 5th and 6th, things get flashy. You mentioned the moon in Libra makes the listener very attractive.
It does. When the moon is in your sign, your emotions are on display. And for Libra, that emotion is often pure charm. You will be glowing, radiating accessibility and warmth. But I must offer a warning here.
I see the note here in bold, do not lead people on.
Correct. With that restless energy of Uranus humming in the background, it becomes very easy to use that charm for sport. To flirt, just to see if you can. To seek validation outside of your relationship because you're feeling bored or restless inside it.
It's the I'm restless, let me see if that cute barista notices me vibe. I just need to know I've still got it.
Exactly that. And while harmless flirting is one thing, with Uranus involved, things can escalate very, very quickly. The energy is unpredictable. You might start a fire you didn't intend to burn.
So what's the advice?
Honesty is required to avoid messiness later. If you're single, great charm away, have fun. But if you are attached, be very careful about the signals you are sending on the 5th and 6th. Don't write checks. Your heart doesn't want to cash later on.
That is some very sound advice. Okay, let's pivot from love to the daily grind, work, and career. This seems to be another area where there's a bit of a battle going on.
There is. And the battle is between the individual creative spark and the collective bureaucracy. We've been calling it creativity versus the committee.
I think everyone has felt that at some point. So the week starts with Venus in the creative zone. That sounds positive.
It's very positive for solo work. Ideas will be flowing, Libras are naturally aesthetic thinkers. They understand balance, color, design, flow. This week, the muse is definitely visiting. If you have a project that requires design or writing or any kind of artistic vision, you are going to be on fire. You'll see solutions that others miss.
But then, February 5th, Mercury square Uranus. We're back to that square tension.
The creative differences aspect. Mercury represents your voice, your specific idea, your pitch. Uranus represents the collective, the group, the network, or sometimes the technology itself. When they square, they clash.
So let's role play this. The Libra is in a meeting. They have this brilliant, beautiful idea. They've worked all night on it. They are passionate about it. And then they present it to the team.
And the team says no, or that doesn't fit the budget, or that's not how we do things here, or the data doesn't support that, or perhaps the technology simply fails, the projector breaks, the file corrupts.
Ouch. That feels personal.
It feels incredibly personal. The dynamic is pure frustration. The Libra wants to do it their way, the way that feels right and beautiful. The group wants the standard way, the safe way.
Right.
And usually Libra is the sign of compromise. They're the diplomats of the zodiac. But under this specific Mercury-Uranus transit, compromise will be exceptionally difficult.
The diplomat goes on strike.
In a way, yes. You might feel blocked by bureaucracy or what we call groupthink. You might feel like you're the smartest person in the room who's being ignored by a committee of people who just don't get it.
And then, just to make matters more interesting, the fog of war rolls in on February 6th when Mercury enters Pisces. You mentioned earlier this makes people daydream, but how does that impact the actual work environment? Because businesses usually run on clarity, not poetry.
It creates confusion. Mercury in Pisces is not clear. It speaks in riddles, metaphors, and vibes. So, from Friday onwards, expect instructions to be vague. Expect emails that don't make sense or lack critical details. Expect misinterpretations across the board.
So if your boss sends you a request on Friday, don't just assume you know what they mean.
Absolutely not. The actionable advice here is over-communicate. Ask clarifying questions. If an email seems ambiguous, that's because it is. Pick up the phone. Do not assume, because your assumption will likely be based on your imagination, not on reality. You need to verify everything.
Now, we also have to touch on the business side of things. We talked about Uranus going direct, affecting personal finances, but what about business owners? We have a lot of entrepreneurs listening.
Yes. Since Uranus is in that 8th house sector of shared resources, for business owners or freelancers, this could relate to things like grants, loans, venture capital, or tax rebates. Sudden news regarding these things is very likely.
So you might finally hear back about that loan application you submitted months ago.
Yes. And because it's Uranus, the answer might be a total surprise, or the terms might be different than you expected. Maybe you get the money, but the interest rate is weird. Maybe you get denied, but an unexpected investor steps in out of the blue.
So be flexible.
The key is to be ready to pivot. Agility is your best asset in business this week. Do not be rigid.
Speaking of money, let's dive deeper into finance. We've established that Uranus is the wild card here.
It is the ultimate wild card. And I want to reiterate that for Libra, Uranus rules this sector of other people's money. This is so distinct from the money you earn from your labor. This is the 8th house money that comes to you, or money you owe to others.
And since Uranus is waking up on February 4th, moving direct, we are looking at activity here.
Activity that is largely out of your control. And that is the frustrating part. For a sign that loves balance and control, you cannot budget for Uranus.
Right.
This could be a surprise inheritance, a tax refund that is much larger than expected, or it could be a sudden unexpected bill, a speeding ticket, a hidden fee, a debt being called in.
It keeps you on your toes. It's the universe checking to see if you're paying attention. But then we have this very specific warning for February 8th, that Venus square Uranus aspect applies to money as well as love.
This is critical. Venus rules money value, luxury spending. When it squares Uranus, it creates a powerful temptation to take risks. It creates a major disconnect between desire and reality.
So the advice is loud and clear. Do not gamble.
I cannot second that enough. Do not gamble. Do not buy lottery tickets. Do not make high-risk stock trades on a whim because you have a hunch. The aspect creates a false sense of luck. You might feel like, I have a feeling about this, but the odds are completely erratic. The house always wins, but under Uranus, the house might just collapse. It's just too unstable.
And I assume this applies to shopping, too. Retail therapy.
It does. Avoid expensive hobbies this week. You might see a beautiful piece of art or a new gadget and think, I must have it, it will change my life. But that impulse is fleeting. That is the dopamine-seeking novelty. Next week, the transit passes, and you'll be looking at your credit card statement wondering why you spent the money.
So what is the strategy? If we can't spend and we shouldn't gamble, what do we do?
Focus on debt settlement. If you have extra cash, pay down a credit card. If you owe a friend money, pay them back. Stability is better than luxury right now. Use the energy to clear the decks, not to clutter them. Get your financial house in order so that when the surprises come, you have room to maneuver.
Wise words. Okay, let's shift gears to something we often overlook until it hurts. Health and wellness. Astrology isn't just about events, it's about the body.
Absolutely. Medical astrology is a fascinating field. And for Libra, the anatomical rulers are the kidneys and the lower back, the lumbar region. Astrologically, these are the weak points this week.
Why specifically the back? Is there a symbolic connection there?
Oh, for sure. The back is where we hold tension, specifically the tension of bearing a burden or trying to maintain posture. With that Venus-Uranus conflict, that struggle to maintain balance amidst chaos, it often manifests physically in the lumbar region. The body literally braces itself against the shock of Uranus, and the lower back takes the hit.
So if you wake up with a stiff back on Wednesday, it might not just be your mattress.
It is likely somatic. It's your body reacting to the stress of the week. Your body's trying to hold it together while the planets are trying to shake things up.
And the kidneys, what's the connection there?
The kidneys are all about filtration and balance. They filter toxins from the body. The advice is simple. Drink plenty of water. Flush the system. Keep things moving. If you're holding on to emotional toxicity, help your body release the physical toxicity.
Now, this part was fascinating to me. Environmental sensitivity. We talked about the moon in Libra making you charismatic, but you're saying it also makes you thin-skinned.
Literally and figuratively. Midweek on the 5th and 6th, when the moon is in your sign, your sensory input is dialed up to 11. Libras are already sensitive to their environment. They need harmony.
For sure.
But this week, if you are in a loud, chaotic, or frankly, an ugly place, somewhere with harsh fluorescent lighting, bad smells, or aggressive noise, it can literally make a Libra feel physically sick.
That is such a Libra problem to have. This fluorescent lighting is giving me the flu.
It sounds funny, and people often mock Libras for being precious, but it is real. Aesthetics affect the Libra nervous system directly. It's how they wire into the world. My prescription: surround yourself with beauty and peace. If you can work from a coffee shop that smells nice and plays jazz, do it. Avoid drama, because there's drama is ugly, and it will drain your physical energy faster than a marathon this week.
So, gentle yoga, massage, sleeping well on the weekend.
And perhaps spending time in nature or an art gallery. Feed your eyes something beautiful to calm your nervous system. You need to soothe the beast before it gets rattled.
I love that. Okay, grab your pens, listeners. It is time for the cosmic cheat sheet. We are going to break down the luck and compatibility for the week. Let's give you the tools to hack the week.
Let's do it. We'll start with the visuals. The color of the week is pink. Specifically, a soft, nurturing pink think hex code, #FFC0CB.
Why pink? Is that just because it's pretty and Libras like pretty things?
It's energetic. Pink is the color of Venus, but in its softest, most unconditional form. Wearing pink, or surrounding yourself with it, invites softness. And in a week that is threatening to be hard, jagged, and electric with that Uranus energy, you want to project and attract softness. You're acting as a buffer for yourself.
I'll act as a buffer. Okay, lucky numbers. We have 6, 15, 24, 33, 42, and 51.
Notice the pattern. They all reduce down to 6. In numerology, 6 is Venus's number. Again, we're reinforcing that connection to your ruling planet. We're trying to strengthen Venus to help her withstand the shock of Uranus.
And the best dates are February 5th and 6th.
That's when the moon is in your sign. Despite the potential for drama, these are still the days where you have the most agency and personal power. You're in the driver's seat emotionally.
Now let's talk people. Who is the best match for a Libra this week? Who should they be hanging out with?
It is the water bearer.
Aquarius.
Aquarius. Why them?
Several reasons. First, they're a fellow air element, so the communication is just effortless. You don't have to explain yourself to an Aquarius, they just get the concept. Second, Venus is currently transiting through Aquarius, so there is a lovely planetary link shining a light on Libra from that direction.
But there's a deeper aha moment here regarding Uranus.
Yes, this is the key. Remember, the source of all the stress this week is Uranus. Well, guess who is ruled by Uranus? Aquarius.
Aquarius. So they speak the language of the chaos.
They're fluent in it.
Exactly. While a Libra might be freaking out about the sudden need for freedom or the unexpected changes, the Aquarius is comfortable there. They live in that state of flux. They won't be scared by your need for space. They won't judge your sudden mood swings. In fact, they will likely join the rebellion.
They're the getaway driver.
They are. It creates a high-voltage romantic connection. They can provide that mental stimulation and excitement you're craving, but without all the judgment and drama.
Which brings us to the flip side. The worst match. Who should we maybe avoid this week?
Capricorns.
Sorry, Capricorns. Why is this a bad mix right now?
It really just comes down to energy and priorities. Capricorn is an earth sign, ruled by Saturn. They are serious, structured, ambitious, and demanding. They value tradition and rules.
And Libra's trying to flow. They're trying to be a cloud.
Libra wants flow, creativity, and right now, a bit of freedom. Capricorn wants rules and hard work. With the current planetary tension, a Capricorn is going to feel like a wet blanket. They might criticize your spending, they might call your creative ideas crazy or impractical.
So the dynamic is basically mutual judgment.
Yes. The Libra feels restricted and judged. The Capricorn feels the Libra is being irresponsible and flighty. It's just a fundamental clash of styles for this particular week. My advice: avoid serious business meetings with Capricorns this week. You will likely not agree on the strategy, and it will just lead to frustration for both of you. Save that meeting for when the stars are aligned differently.
Good to know. Okay, we've covered so much ground, from the Jekyll and Hyde energy of the week to the specific clashes in love and work. Let's bring it all together.
If we analyze the week as a whole, it really is a week of creative highs, potential romantic shocks, and a deep need for financial caution. It is dynamic. It is definitely not boring.
And your final thought for our Libra friends: how should they walk out the door on Monday morning with all this in mind?
I would say lean into the Uranus direct energy by being adaptable. Don't fight the changes, surf them. Rigidity will break you this week. But use the Mercury and Pisces energy to dream. Just remember to keep one foot on the ground so you don't float away entirely.
And I love the provocative thought you had prepared. This is something for our listeners to really mull over.
Yes. If, or I should say when, that restlessness strikes on February 8th, when you feel like tearing everything down, I want you to pause and ask yourself a very specific question. Are you truly unhappy, or are you just bored?
That's powerful. Unhappy or just bored?
The answer changes everything. Boredom is temporary and can be fixed with a hobby, a movie, or an adventure. It's a lack of stimulation. Unhappiness is structural. It requires a completely different solution. Don't confuse the two in the heat of the moment. Don't end a relationship just because you need a dopamine hit.
I'm going to be thinking about that one all week. Thank you so much for breaking all of this down for us. It's always such a pleasure to pick your brain.
The pleasure was all mine.
And thank you to you, the listener, for tuning into this update on Horoscope TV. We know you have a lot of choices for your astrological insights, and we really appreciate you spending this time with us.
Indeed, we do.
Make sure to subscribe so you get notified the moment next week's forecast is available. We don't want you to miss a beat. See you in the stars.